Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Jerome. I graduated DE in 2022 and I'm currently a senior at Tufts University. I have two older sisters who graduated from DE as well. Many of you may know my dad, and if you're unsure of whether you've met him or not, I can assure you you haven't, because he's a very memorable person. Growing up, I knew my dad worked at a college, was once a lawyer, and I thought he may have been a coach of some sort because we attended a lot of Monroe basketball and football games, but I definitely didn't understand the full picture. As I got older and more aware, I realized my dad was not just a coach or a teacher, though he kind of is both of those things. My dad is the president of Monroe University, a university founded 92 years ago by my great-grandfather and great-aunt, providing education to a diverse student body, many of whom came from under-resourced urban areas or are the first in their families to graduate college. My grandfather, Stephen Jerome, who's here today, is celebrating his 60th year at Monroe as well. My dad always taught me to give back to the communities that I'm a part of and the institutions who help shape who I am. And my dad does this by leading by example. He's dedicated his life to giving back to the communities he is a part of, whether it's DE, where he served as a member of the board for 9 years and led the Alumni Relations Committee for a lot of years, or in the Bronx, where Monroe serves as a pillar of the community, giving people chances they never thought they would have. I experienced this firsthand this summer when I interned for Congressman Richie Torres, a Bronx congressman representing the 15th Congressional District. One day, my boss, two other interns, and I spent a day working at a booth at a Bronx police station community event. All of a sudden, a very tough-looking former police officer came up to us with what looked like tears in his eyes, staring at me intently. He looked at me, looked at my boss, and looked at me again, and said, "Is this a Jerome?" Yeah. My boss, laughing, told him that yes, I am the Marc Jerome's daughter, and he said he recognized me from my father's social media. He went on to talk about how working at Monroe changed his life. The people there became a family to him, and that my dad was the man. He told me that if I didn't know it already, the Jerome family has impacted so many people's lives in the community and has given so many people of the Bronx new opportunities. He also added that his favorite day of the whole year was when my father, and my grandfather also did this before him, served homemade pies to 1,000 of their employees, so all of their employees before Thanksgiving. He told me this is the favorite. He told me this was his favorite day of the year because those pies are the best things he will eat all year. This moment is where I saw my dad's impact in action, and it's very representative of who he is. He cares deeply for everyone around him and makes an impact wherever he goes. So I'd like to welcome my dad, Marc Jerome.
Good afternoon. I didn't expect to be emotional coming up, but as you'll hear, first thing, when it's your youngest daughter, and all of a sudden they get up and they're all of a sudden a woman, it sometimes hits you, for those of you who have children, but also today brings together a lot of parts of my life. It is a pleasure and honor for me to be here today, and I do want to start up by acknowledging Wendy Gordon Rockefeller, my fellow Anonymous, who's an incredible person, Last night, the class of 1985 had an unofficial reunion of course, at all places, a bar in Manhattan. I understand it went very late, and many more members were supposed to be here today, but I actually understand some of them are still at the bar. We're going to hear a little bit about this. So I feel blessed to be receiving this recognition because I credit my experience at Dwight-Englewood for helping me grow from a skinny, big-haired ninth grader, wearing flannel shirts in the 80s, to be able to become a person who could successfully lead a university that is 92 years old. I'm in the third generation, and educates 10,000 students, and we take care of 1,500 employees, and we really make a big difference in our communities. And it is a huge burden, but it's a blessing for me. And I go to work every day with 3 goals. And this I definitely consider a blessing. First, how could I help our students? So my dad's gonna make me cry. Second, how can we help our employees? And third, what can we do to help our community? And so, as you heard from our daughter Lucy, Dwight-Englewood has been a huge part of my life and my family's life for many years. Our 3 daughters graduated and they were lifers. My dad served on the board before me. I served on the board for 9 years. My wife Helen first started as a volunteer, then eventually became the dean of admissions, and this was a big part of her life. When my children enrolled at Dwight-Englewood, one of the first surreal experiences was sitting down for a parent-teacher conference. And it was especially surreal when I sat down as a parent with a teacher of my daughter who taught me. Because for some reason, the relationship of teacher-student doesn't always change. And as I was there about my daughter, I was expecting Betsy Carson's husband, Jerry Krauthammer, to say, Jerome, your writing isn't that good. Your speaking really isn't that, you're not at my standard. And so that was a big, big change. Also, a major point in my life when my oldest daughter decided to follow in my steps. I was a runner here and a runner for Tufts University. When she joined the team, who was her coach? Jerry Krauthammer, known as Kraut. And who did Kraut coach before that? Me. And so that was a blessing for me to come 30 years later and have my daughter be coached by the same man who coached me. And what was even a bigger blessing, she was a much better runner than me. And actually, her college essay that got her into college was about how she started following me training. And then by the time she was a senior, I was following her with the running. And that hasn't changed at all. I'm following her ever since. I want you to know that. So Dwight-Englewood has played a big role in my life. Some of you may know I'm born in the Bronx. My name is Marc Jerome. My dad and I work on Jerome Avenue, which I'll tell you about another day. We moved to then Rivervale, which is really far up. And at one point in 8th grade, my mom and dad said to me, we think you and your brother should apply to Dwight-Englewood. I had no idea. And it was one of the best decisions they ever made. My best friend from Rivervale was Tom Yang. He's here. Give him a lot of round of applause. And Tom and I, whatever Tom did, I did. Whatever I did, Tom did. That's not true. I'm a big kimchi eater, Tom. So he's from Korean descent. But to start with, first thing, my classmates from '85, you actually had a big impact on my life. I want you to know that. You're part of my journey. We actually had a class with very diverse interests, and that was proven to me last night. We had athletes and actors and attorneys in the making. We had people interested in finance, Lisa Landau's here, and Tom Yang is here, and we had people interested in the fine arts. We had future marketers and people who were destined to go into nonprofit work. We were, to say the least, a very interesting, eclectic group. And I want you to know, academics at Dwight-Englewood absolutely helped me prepare for both college and the world. And this is something you hear from Dwight-Englewood alumni all the time. Last night, as I was driving home from the bar with someone who had a few too many drinks, he said to me, my daughter's in 8th grade, and she's reading Fahrenheit 451, and I remember that very well. We read books that impacted us and had an impact on our lives, I think. For me, I wrote down, I remember Fahrenheit 451, Great Gatsby, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, and a separate piece by John Knowles. Any other book from my class that you remember? Catcher in the Rye, To Kill a Mockingbird. We took classes and participated in clubs and organizations that shaped who we would become. I distinctly remember taking a class that I don't think you could find anywhere else. The class was called Third World Politics. This is the 1980s, the Reagan years. The teacher, John Stott. The subject matter, Vietnam, apartheid in South Africa, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He was sure then it would be resolved, and that was years ago. But the reason I bring it up, that was a class you couldn't really find anywhere else. Then I was blessed, I'm not sure I remember exactly what it was, to take either a law or a moot court class with Lisa Landau Carnoy's father, who was actually a nationally acclaimed trial lawyer. I looked it up first today, inducted into the National Hall of Fame for trial lawyers. And then for senior project, we had senior projects then, I interned at then Congressman Torricelli's office. And what I'm certain is, these things prepared me for a life in law and government. I'm absolutely certain of that. When I arrived at Tufts University, the fall of '85, I was nervous about academics. And actually, I had no reason to be nervous about academics. It soon became clear to me, as it has become to thousands of Dwight-Englewood graduates, the people in the room will know this, that we were well prepared for university. Most of the classes, or many of the classes I took at Dwight-Englewood had higher rigor and better teaching than many of the classes I took at university. How many of you feel the same way? A lot of you in the office, all the alumni. And so I also credit my ability to write and speak effectively to what I learned here. I see all the people's heads going up and down. Lastly, I am certain that Dwight-Englewood provided me the ability to be involved with something, to belong before belonging was really a thing, in a way that would not have been available to me at my large public high school, which would have been Pascack Valley. I played basketball, I played tennis, I ran track and cross country. I had a voice. I forgot that I spoke at graduation, and the first version of my speech to my dad read, and he was a university president. He was like, I will never let you read this speech, because it was not the most respectful speech. And I also ran track, and Jerry Krauthammer was a great track coach. He gave me one instruction: follow and try to keep up with a man named David Gendelman. And so David Gendelman was what we call one of the smallest and mightiest people. He was one of the greatest runners in the state of New Jersey. And part of what made the class of 1985 so interesting is that we actually were not that well behaved. And so when I arrived at the bar last night, Conrad Lattis, who's here today and is generally well behaved, told me a story about junior year trip to Washington, D.C. and something with alcohol. And then when my daughter started at DE, one of the first people who I met, this is for our faculty, was Joan Maffetone. And Joan Maffetone, when I arrived, was already one of the most senior, well-respected teachers at Dwight-Englewood. And she said to me, my first year at Dwight-Englewood, I taught your class, the class of '85, in English. And it was one of the worst experiences of my entire life. And the only good thing about it was like a crash course in classroom management. And so that was the class of 1985. And so DE made an impact on me, but also, as you've heard, on the generations of my family. Our 3 daughters graduated from here. They were really well prepared and did well in university. Our oldest daughter became a celebrated runner at DE. She runs a 5-minute mile. She holds all the records. I think it's going to be a long time until those records are broken. And she was the captain of her college team. She broke the mile record at Hamilton College. She's running the Philly Marathon in a few weeks. She hopes to run under 3 hours, which I think is very fast. Lucy next to me follows in my footsteps. She's a budding political science major, and she's intending to go to law school. And our middle daughter has a lovely career in fashion at a company called Maison Margiela, which is pretty hip. Then there are my parents. Can you please raise your hand? Okay, now, I'm not going to reveal their age, but let's just say, and you have to look at them, they look terrific for their age. But if you ask my dad, he partly credits his good looks and good health to Dwight-Englewood. So wait, I'm going to tell you why though. So here you go. Have any of you ever rooted for a runner in a long distance race? And if you have, sometimes you realize you want to see the runner in more than one spot. So the runner goes by, and then you run to the next spot. At high school cross country in New Jersey, we not only ran on courses that were in the woods, but they were incredibly hilly. And I'm thinking back, my dad, who must have been in his 40s at the time, was a great fan of mine. And he would see me at mile 1, and then I knew he would sprint through the woods, up the hill, down the hill, up the hill, down the hill, to mile 2, and he would yell for me. And then he would sprint through the woods to mile 3 to the ending, where I was like having trouble, and he would root for me. And at the end of the race, I had to look at him and make sure he was okay, because he had run possibly more and faster than I had run. And I think all that running and rooting in the 1980s set the foundation for his good health today. And so, I thank Maria Sanchez-Gardner for organizing tonight. I thank Amy Hembry and Laura for last night. We had a great time. I thank Dwight-Englewood for the award. I look forward to seeing the many great things that the class of 1985 and all the Dwight-Englewood alums will do. And I also look forward to seeing our new head of school lead a new chapter here. Thank you so much.